All right. So hopefully we can move a little bit quicker now that we already have created a EC2 instance, because now we need to create our other main EC2 instance that will store our application, which is the private instance. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find my public instance resource and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. And then instead of public here, I'm going to say private instance. I'm fine with using the same AMI, the same instance type. For subnet ID, I'm going to use my private subnet ID instead. I am not going to associate a public IP address with it, so I'll make that false. And then we can use the same key pair. And then here we have a security group, and we're not going to want to use the same security group as before. So I'm going to copy my security group from the public one, and I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to change the security group to being private. So coding with Callie, private security group, name, allow traffic. Mm. All right. I'm trying to read what we want to allow. So we want to allow us to egress to anywhere. That is fair. And we want to allow ingress on port 80 because we'll eventually be using our NGINX server on the public instance to redirect to the private instance, but we don't need to be able to allow all IP addresses. What we can do is we can go and grab the CIDR block for our public subnet. And we can throw it in here. The next thing that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to SSH into it, but we want to be able to SSH into it from the Bastion host. So for now, I'm just going to say from anywhere, and then I'm going to add a comment, and I'm going to say allow change CIDR block to be security group for Bastion host. Okay. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to name this allow some traffic. And I'm going to say allow SSH traffic from Bastion host, TCP traffic. Yeah, inbound's fine. TCP traffic from public subnet and all outbound traffic. All right, cool. And that security group is going to be in our main VPC. All right, we will name this Coding with Callie private subgroup. I also feel like this allows some traffic name. I'm going to take it off because I kind of want this name to be there. And I felt a little bit confused when I saw allow traffic before. So I'm going to take it off my public subnet too. All right, so now with having saved that, I should be able to say Terraform apply and take a look at how we did. All right, so we're adding the private security group. We're adding the private instance. I don't really know why we're not changing the other security group, but I'm going to just go ahead and press say okay. All right, so it says your requested instance type T3 micro is not supported in your requested availability zone US East 1. All right, this is actually a good gotcha moment, really just a gotcha moment for me. But when we create public and private subnets, we're creating them in availability zones. So I set my region equal to US East 1, but because I didn't set my availability zones in my public and private subnet, it's just kind of picking any availability zone from US East 1. So what we need to do is we need to add availability zone, and then I'm going to just stick with US East 1A. And I'm going to do that for both public and private subnet. Okay. So now I should be able to Terraform apply, and it should be able to do that for us. So my public subnet is going to be replaced. My private subnet is going to be replaced. Lots of things are getting replaced. So pretty much 5 to add, 4 to destroy. Let's go ahead and say yes. So we're gonna have to wait for all this to destroy. So what I'm gonna do is, since I've already been sitting in silence just staring at this for a little bit too long, I'm gonna just pause and then unpause when it comes back, but it should take a while. Did not take as long as I expected, but here we go. We have them back. So I'm gonna make this bigger so that way I can see it. And we have our public EC2 instance and our private EC2 instance both running, both initializing still. Let's see, we should be able to connect to the public one and we shouldn't be able to connect to the private one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my SSH command. Let's paste it in. Not looking good. Curious if it's because we're not passing the status checks yet. We've been initializing for a while. Probably time out. All right, I'm gonna pause and then I'll come back when the checks are run. All right, so I went ahead and finished running the like waiting for it to become ready, 2 out of 2 check. But what's confusing me a little bit is I don't have a public IP address here, and I'm a little bit confused as to why I don't have a public IP address on my public instance. So I am going and looking at, okay, so now I'm looking at my public instance and I see associate public IP address, true. So that's a little bit confusing to me. So I then went ahead and ran Terraform apply to see if anything is not correct in here. And I don't see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Terraform destroy and then Terraform reapply. I'm going to pause the video here. And once everything is back up, we're going to see if the public IP address worked. Maybe me changing the availability zones was like too much to do at once. Okay, so pausing and I will see you in a minute. All right, we're all destroyed. And now I'm looking at it further and I see that my AWS instance that I'm saying is my private instance, I'm seeing that I have a name saying coding with Kali public EC2, which makes me curious if that is the issue. When you have an issue and you're like, the computer's wrong, the computer's probably not wrong. It's probably you. All right, so I'm going to click Terraform apply and then I'm going to click no because you can see I also have another typo where I said I want the public security group and I actually want the private security group. So we have private instance, that AMI is fine, instance type is fine. Subnet would be the private subnet ID. We do not want an IP address that's public. We want it to be in the private security group and we want it to be named private. All right, so now let's try to apply and let's see if it will actually work. And I'm going to say yes. All right, and they're all done. So let's go to my instances. I am going to go ahead and just look at running. And now I'm curious to test out this initialization thing. So public EC2 has a public IP address. If you look at the security group. Oh, interesting. So it looks like we do have to name the security group in order to have a good name, but we want it to be able to SSH from there, and then we want it to be able to inbound from anywhere, and outbound rules anywhere. Okay, so let's go to connect, and then we're to do the chmod because we should have a new key. And then let's do our SSH command. And awesome. So we can get into our public IP address. All right, now let's verify that we cannot get into our private. Okay, and these are still initializing, so that ready check 2 out of 2 does not need to be done in order for you to SSH. All right, so no public IP address, that's good. Let's go to networking. We're in the private subnet. Security group, we want to be able to have inbound traffic on port 80 from our public subnet. All right, so let's go to connect and let's do our SSH command. And you can see it's thinking and thinking, which means that ultimately it will time out. All right, so this is pretty good. We're very close. We still have a few more pieces to the puzzle before you can actually use your Bastion host to SSH into your private host and actually get your NGINX images or your NGINX servers up and running and configured. All right. So I will see you in the next video.